Well, I feel kind of embarrassed. I spent a lot of time making a new review desk so this way I have more room, and here I am about to do an unboxing of a box that's so big that it takes up the entire space. At least like this. But I wanted to show off the Vortex logo. Now, what this is fairly new to me, but not a new scope at all. Before we get into it, you can already tell what it is. I mean, you could tell from the title of the video, but this is a Gen 1 Razor HD 5 to 20. Again, I'm a little embarrassed because just how massive this box is, and I don't really have much more room for my camera to go up. You can see clearly that this was inspected, so this was sent into Vortex for whatever reason. I bought this used, and I'll touch on that more later, but just keep that in mind for the condition of the box and everything else like that. I did not buy this from a realtor. I bought this from a private sale on Gunbroker, and you'll understand why once I start talking about it. A typical Vortex box for their Razor HD series. I only know that from Sparks' Razor HD 1-6 Gen 2E. I know that they like to do it big, and with this scope, it really is big. So let's start by taking off this top. As I'm knocking literally everything off of the shelves above me. Here we go. It's nice bright silver. Open that up. We have a little owner's manual, a little cleaning cloth, everything we're going to need to know about this reticle. Fantastic. How to do ranging with it. This is a Milrad scope, so it should be pretty easy. Everything's divisible by 10. Finish going through this real quick. And then we're out of it. Time for the moment of truth. Oh. And there it is. It's hard to put into words how big this thing is. This is a chonk, but here we go anyway. This is just an empty box for the bubble level that came with the scope, as well as these Vortex Precision rings. And now I'm going to start touching on to why I bought this. Move that out of the way. Shortly after I had received Sparks' Gen 2 Razor HD for review, I quickly started browsing all the classifieds that I could to try to find one. I didn't find a Gen 2 for a price that I was willing to pay, primarily because most of them are well over $1,000. But I came across this. This was a Gunbroker auction, and it came as you see it. Oh, wait, I'm excluding one part. I'll get to that in a sec. But it came as you see it. Bubble level, which I don't really care for too much, but you know what? It's there. But more importantly, these rings. Unfortunately, they are extra high rings, but this allows the objective to clear on a flat rail. So if I was putting this on top of an AR-15, this would already be good to go. If I was putting this on most bolt-action chassis guns, it would be good to go. But I don't know what I'm going to put this on yet. But I don't have either of those, so I'm not going to really be using it on that. So I'm probably going to have to sell these rings, or at least put them off to the side and then buy another set of rings. But nevertheless, it came with rings. There's only one thing that it didn't include, and that's because the seller was honest enough to tell me that he couldn't find it. But moving on to why I also like Vortex so much, he couldn't find the sunshade. What he did was send an email over to Vortex, and within a week, he had gotten this in the mail. All he said was, hey, I can't find it. You know what they said? No problem. We're going to send you one. And there it is. Now, for those of you that aren't initiated, this thing is absolutely massive. And when I say massive, I mean it's huge. It is a chonk. A gigantic chonk. So much so, let me compare it with, you know what, I have a SWFA fixed 20X right here on rings. Let's see what they look like side by side. Chonk. It is absolutely massive. Even without the sunshade, it's at least another 1.5 inches longer. And that's not including even what the tube size is. This SWFA has a 30mm tube. The Gen 1 Razor HD, 35 millimeter. That's massive. Not only that, the length of it's massive. It's about 16 inches long and weighs 37 ounces. Turret to turret, there's no comparison. It's like Laurel and Hardy. It's even more impressive in person, I shit you not. Now, yeah, it's all fine and dandy talking about how girthy this thing is. And I could probably talk about how girthy this thing is for a while. But how does it feel? Well, in typical high-end Vortex fashion, this thing feels awesome. The finish on this thing is pretty beat. So, tube mark there, tube mark there. The guy who owned this before me, even though he was very honest about, not finding a sunshade, this thing was pretty rough around the edges. I cleaned it up a lot. You could see he paint marked that. That's fine, whatever. But these rings were torqued way too tight, and there was so much blue Loctite on there, I couldn't get the screws out until the very last thread. They would not come out easy at all, and they were gunked up real bad. It was an actual nightmare. In fact, I had to use acetone to wipe down these rings to get them clean enough to actually put them back on to the point where I felt comfortable using it. So, bit of an issue there, but hey, look, you're buying a used scope. And, oh, did I tell you what I paid for it? I paid $800 for this as it sits right here. Now, $800 sounds like a lot of money, and it is. You could buy a lot of scopes with that. But when you compare that to the new price of one of these, you could buy this brand new from Vortex right now on Amazon for about $1,600. So that's not even including rings or bubble level. And that's less than half price. And you know what? I'm okay with that. Why? Well, number one, it's a Vortex. So that means that their warranty is going to be the same for this one. That's an older beat up model or a brand new one. So if there is something that's wrong with it, I send it back. I send it over to them and say, hey, look, something's going on. And they take care of it. 1, 2, 3. $800 was something I was absolutely willing to spend on this. And I'm glad that I did, because I've always wanted one of these. Ever since I first got into long range shooting, even though I'm not really what I would consider a long range shooter, but ever since I started to enjoy the premise of long range shooting, I've always seen these. And I have just always loved and admired the look of these. They're very simple and actually quite elegant, even though these turrets are huge. I mean, I got pretty big hands, but they're just massive. But it makes it so easy to actually read them. These are only 5 mils per rotation. And what that means is that you can have very large gaps between each hash mark. So you know when you're going 0.1 of a mil or 1 complete mil. You don't have to worry about, is that 0.1 or 0.2? Did I miscount the clicks? And you take a quick look over at your turrets and you're not too sure because they're trying to ramp up 15 mils per rotation. No, this is just 5. And you know what? That's fine by me. But enough of me talking about the turrets. Let's listen to them. Oh. Keep in mind, I don't know how old this is. I don't know how much it's been used, but it still feels utterly crisp. No play once it's engaged. None. You could see my fingernail on my thumb, how much pressure I'm putting on this thing to try to turn it, and it's not turning. This thing is really tight, and it feels so good. D10s are nice and sharp. It pops into location. Once you get it past most of the D10, it literally takes it the rest of the way by itself. Fan-frickin-tastic. Awesome. This is why you pay a lot of money for a scope like this, because you're getting turrets that just feel the part, and they look the part. Another thing that feels really good is this adjustable objective. Goes down to 40 yards, which I don't know why it's in yards and not meters, but that's besides the point. I guess they do have a MOA version of this scope, so whatever. Besides, most ranges around here in the US are in yards, not meters. But this feels really nice, perfectly damped. Down at the bottom, we'll take a look at the model number, And clearly right in the middle, made in Japan. Very, very nice. Rear adjuster, pretty smooth. A little on the loose side, but again, who knows how old this is and how much it's been used. Maybe that's a reason why the old owner marked it, because if it got dislodged, he could very quickly just index it back to where it was. Magnification ring is actually rubberized. This is interesting because unlike all the other scopes that I've reviewed, this one actually has rubber on the outside and it feels really good. No throw lever on this, even though I'm sure I can get one for it. But honestly, I have so much purchase on this that it requires little effort to change this. It's still a pretty good throw. So if that's 12 o'clock, max power is around right here. So it's about 180 degrees around. But honestly, it's super easy to get your fingers on this and just give it a twist. Now, if this is on a receiver, I'm sure it's going to be a little more difficult, but the damping on this is pretty soft actually. It still requires some force, so it's not going to just start changing its magnification by itself, but it feels really, really good. I also like how they use a little fiber optic tube right there. So this way when you're behind the gun, you could actually pick up on that, and it might even illuminate the numbers in front when you're behind it in lower light. I don't really know. Probably just talking out my butt on that one, but feels really good. The only thing I'm a little about so far is the illumination. And the illumination on this is this little bump right here, and it's got 11 settings, and it's off in between each one. The clicks feel pretty good, but you can't see the numbers on this at all. So I'm going to have to come over here with probably some whiteout, wipe it, and then try to take off the excess and see if I can highlight the numbers themselves so this way I could see it better, because you can't really see what they are right now. But in my findings, the illumination on this is not that bright. However, the reticle I really like. It's very simple. It's very basic. It's not too flashy. I don't think I'm going to get lost if I ever had to use it. Everything is very clearly labeled, so if you're holding up for dope, it's easy enough. It's just the illumination is lacking. And I think that's going to be the biggest issue with the scope for the price point, is that it leaves a lot to be desired. But again, this is an old model scope. This is not brand new. This is not their Gen 2s. I'm sure their Gen 2s are incredible as far as the Razor HDs go. And then they're coming out with the Gen 3s, and who knows what those are going to have. I'm sure they're going to just be my mind is just going to melt out of my ears. It's going to be great. I can't wait. But when I get this in my hands and I go through it and I feel it, I can't help but wonder what the Gen 2 PST 5 to 25 would be like. And you know what? I actually have a little experience with that, because one of my friends out in Pennsylvania, he's got a Gen 2 PST 5 to 25. And I've used that on his 308 RPR a couple times, and it is pretty damn nice. So what I'm going to do is finish reviewing this, and then I want to try to get his in and compare the two. Because if you bought this brand new, this is $1,600, give or take. It's a lot of money. You could find these used for about $1,000 all day long. Sometimes with rings, sometimes without. And that's in territory of the Gen 2 PST 5 to 25. And a lot of people say that this and the Gen 2 PST are very close as far as glass quality is concerned. But I bet the PST is going to have better illumination than this. So that's going to be an interesting comparison. I'm really looking forward to seeing how the new lower end model stacks up to the older higher end model. So that's going to be really, really cool when I get to it. But for now, that's going to conclude this unboxing. Thank you very much for watching. See you again next time.